What's going on, people? Joey Talks Boxing. I wanted to talk a little bit about the news that Showtime is not going to be continuing in boxing next year. Following the 2023 year, they're done with boxing. Now, I read at first that they were going to do some big pay-per-view events, so maybe they're still going to do that. But as far as a consistent week-by-week thing goes, PBC on Showtime is done. They've already been done with Fox. Rick Glazer, a person who I had on my show, has said this, that for a while, that Showtime is not going to be continuing with boxing with PBC. And a lot of people said he was just saying that because he's anti-PBC. Well, he was right about that. And they're not going to be continuing. I've heard that they're going to move to Amazon to do some of their content. And I can't say that I'm surprised. I mean, in today's time, things change in boxing fast. HBO's been out of boxing for about 5 years now. Showtime, the same thing. And a lot of people, they laughed at DAZN when they started like, oh, boxing's on an app. Or they laughed at ESPN Plus, but more at DAZN because ESPN has a big brand. But this is the future of boxing. Streaming services, apps. And things change over time. I remember George Foreman talking about it on Max Kellerman's show, Max on Boxing. He was boxing in the 70s. It was on, boxing was on CBS, I believe. I think it was, or ABC or CBS, one of those networks. Then he comes back, boxing's on HBO. That was a big change. At the time, people, they didn't think HBO was going to work because they're like, it's not going to be on mainstream cable television. But HBO ended up working. Showtime ended up working. Now you see more people are gravitating towards ESPN Plus. DAZN is growing. So the sport changes and it evolves. And it's like that with all sports. The NFL is on Amazon on Thursday night. So on and so on. So people making fun of apps, those sound like the people that can't get with the new times and the new technology. And I got to give a shout out to Michael Mantel for bringing this up. It's like people back in the day where they would say, oh, cell phones, nah, that's never going to work. Now everybody has a cell phone. If you don't have a cell phone, it's hard to function in modern day society. So there are just certain things that happen and you have to adjust with the times. I know a lot of people are happy that Showtime is gone because of the fact that Steven Espinoza acted with a lot of arrogance. I'm not going to say I'm happy about that because a lot of people lost their jobs and their livelihood. And I thought that this year was a great year for Showtime. They had David Benavidez and Caleb Plant. They had Canelo Charlo, even though the fight didn't end up being good, but it was a big event. Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia was amazing. Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence was amazing. So they were starting to give the big fights. And as Rick Glazer said, the reason they were trying to give the big fights was because they were desperate to try to keep it going. So they had to try to get as much money as they could and potentially convince Showtime that this can work. The days of the pay-per-views like Charles Martin and Luis Ortiz or Keith Thurman, Mario Barrios, just pay-per-views like that where they would put on the network and you would say, how is this a pay-per-view fight? Those days are gone. And I hope that whatever place they go to on Amazon, Paramount, wherever it is, they give you better value for what you're paying for. They make it where you will feel like what you paid for is worthwhile. Because a lot of people are having problems with DAZN, especially in America. I got Usyk and Dubois. That was a good one. I think Leigh Wood and Josh Warrington, that was a good one. But without Canelo there anymore, and Joshua this year didn't really fight any of the marquee names, a lot of people feel like, where are they getting, with DAZN? Mikey Garcia, he didn't really do a lot with DAZN. Triple G, his fights weren't really that big. And then the fights that they do have on DAZN with like Triple G and Canelo 3 and Haney and Progress, they're now pay-per-view fights. Not saying that they're not worthy, some of those fights of pay-per-view. I definitely think Canelo Triple G3 is. But I'm not sure Haney and Progress is worthy of a pay-per-view fight. I know that Lomachenko did and Haney did it on pay-per-view in their last fight, but I mean, that wasn't such a big success on ESPN Plus. So I don't know if like Haney and Progress is such a big pay-per-view fight. Listen, I'm going to buy it, but you can't go off me. I'm a boxing nut. I'm a big fan. But the average consumer who, might not be sure, like, should I buy this? Should I not buy this? I could see there being a reluctance to pay for something like that. So for me, I think that Showtime, they had their time, they had their run. They put on some unbelievable big events over the years, not just in the PBC era, but Tyson Holyfield, Douglas Holyfield, Corrales Castillo, the Mayweather fights were on Showtime, Mayweather and Canelo. They had big, mega fights, mega events, but things changed with the time. I think that HBO was the best boxing program that I've ever seen. When it was Jim Lampley, and then you had, Freddie Pacheco. You had, he was with Showtime also, actually. I take that back. But you had Emmanuel Stewart and Larry Merchant. Then you had Max Kellerman. George Foreman was, in the also with Larry Merchant. You had great commentators, Andre Ward, Roy Jones, and their product was excellent. But they got out of the boxing industry and they wanted to focus on other things. Showtime, the same thing. Things change with the times, but all the people making fun of like the zone and apps and all this stuff, it's like, that's the future. That's where boxing is going. And you got to give Eddie Hearn some credit because he understood that. So, with Showtime being gone, it'll be interesting to see where they go. You look at the young talent on PBC, the only guy I can really think, I don't know if he's with PBC, but he had a deal with Showtime. And I heard he passed up on a different fight, was Jaron Ennis. He's the one that might be lost in this whole shuffle because as far as young fighters go, he's the one that you look at and say, okay, he'll be, next up, him and really David Benavidez. Now, David Benavidez is fighting Demetrius Andrade on Showtime because that's this year. That's going to be on November 25th. But going forward, is it an Amazon pay-per-view with Canelo and Benavidez if they do that? I don't know. I'm assuming that they would do something like that because I don't think that they could just put Canelo on the fight with Canelo and Benavidez, just like a part of your subscription. They did that with the Zone early on. They made that like a part of your subscription when it was like Canelo and Rocky Fielding or Jacobs or Kovalev, I believe. But once it was like the big names, that wasn't the case. I think after the Caleb Plant fight, they did the Triple G was pay-per-view. John Ryder was pay-per-view. So I don't know what's going forward, but I'm assuming that PBC is going to do something with Amazon. And let's see. Hopefully, though, they change PBC, their business model. They don't have such lopsided main events. And they can give you the high-quality matchups that they've been giving you this year. I want that all the time, and I think that's what boxing fans deserve. You see the sport of boxing is losing its relevancy, and it hurts. As a big boxing fan myself, I want to see the best fight the best and the marquee matchups, and I want to see casual people into the fight and into the sport because if they're into the sport grows. Let me know what you guys think. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Peace.